was actually quite amazed to see that we're, I think, out of the recession, if there's about 400 or 500 people who've paid 24,000 rupees or thereabouts to come here. This has never happened in the history of India before for a digital conference. I think that itself is a big sign that this is coming of age. I think you guys have to give yourself and who was signing your expense accounts a big hand. So we just spend a little while talking about a few interesting things that we've seen happen in the last 4 or 5 years. I've been she's briefly covered the story, but I'll probably go into it in a little bit. I've worked with agencies like Grey, Ulka, FCB and Ogilvy, and USF CKS in the US. I helped launch MTV in India, Amazon and Yahoo globally. Then I worked for an e-commerce company that was bought by Intel. I came back to India to run a television channel, Channel V. I helped found and fund 3 companies, Geodesic, Pinstorm and Silphon. Geodesic have exited. And some of my investments include Webdunia, Carvali, Redbus, Vatsalya. Works for a lot more money. The firm, I'm with just one slide. This is the obligatory advertising slide. We're a digital brand management firm. Some of the brands we work with, apart from others who are here in the audience, hi Vinda, we didn't forget you. Sheikh Khan, ICICI, CNN, Airtel, Redigare, Wipro, The Journal, Jet, UCLA, Hong Kong University, Cafe Coffee Day, and a few others. I really wanted to start by talking about the size and scope of the industry in India. 7 years ago when we started, we used to face this big barrier that pretty much came up and said, digital is this niche little thing. So I really want to take you through some numbers right now. I really don't believe digital is niche. I'm not even saying it's mainstream. I'm actually making a ridiculous, semi-ridiculous claim that digital is bigger than mainstream. If I look at the numbers out there, I think we've come to a watershed this year. This announcement should have been bigger news. I don't know why it's come and gone so quietly, but we crossed 100 million digital users in India this year. This is not an IMA number. Those numbers are somewhat suspect, but these are numbers that we pulled from internal Google, from our friends at Airtel and other places. So basically, we've really crossed a watershed number. And if I look at it a little more specifically, we have about 85 million desktop users of the net in India and about 45 million mobile users of the net in India. That's an enormous number. And the reason I'm still saying 203 million is the rest, overlap of the 20, 25, 30 million is a duplication. People who are on both. Why is this a big number? To put this in perspective, there are only 103 million cable and satellite television sets in India. So digital is actually equal to the reach of all cable and satellite in India already today. The only thing that's bigger is terrestrial, where there's an additional 31 million television sets that get Doordarshan that are not yet covered by cable and satellite. I do believe by the end of this year we will cross even that. So you're really talking about the fact that it is bigger than mainstream already. These are current numbers that we see right now. And all of this is larger than the circulation of all print and media put together. Right? So we're not talking about a niche little medium that was there that we all talked about some time ago. So anybody who tells you that digital is a small and unremarkable medium, a 2% medium, put 2% of the budget there, is either blind or ignorant or sells TV or print or all of the above. So we've really, really come a long way since we started 7 years ago. It's probably the tipping point for this entire industry. The big surprise is in the amount of users, the 100 million plus users. But the even bigger surprise is in the amount of usage. And this is really where it starts beginning to affect your brand. Can your brand adjust to the shift? So if I look at IMRB numbers here, we're talking about a 65% increase in usage year over year from 9 hours a week to 16 hours a week, across from 70 million people to 103 million people. When you put this together, when you put this 45% increase in the users, along with 65% increase in usage, you're talking about 140% increase in usage in the last year. So you're at 100 million and growing at 140%. I don't think there is a medium out there that is making this, this kind of sea change in the environment out there. And if I look at the actual numbers, look at which television property, there is not Big Boss, there is not, any TV soap opera, nothing out there matches these kinds of numbers. Facebook, 25 million users, 15 visits a month, and 25 minutes per visit. If you were a TV channel, you'd die to get numbers like this. I know, I used to run a TV channel. Orkut, you don't think too highly of it, but it's 7 visits a month and 30 minutes per visit across 16 million users. YouTube, 16 million users, 6 visits a month, 18 minutes per visit. This is much more than the snacking consumption of any mainstream television channel on a regular basis. So really talking about the fact that, once upon a time, we had to fight for that small part of the budget where there was television and print and there was asterisk. And within the asterisk was digital, out of home, blah, 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 blah. And now suddenly we now deserve a place on the main board. We deserve a place on the main table because the numbers are out there, the usage is there, the users are there. If you count digital more broadly, right, the reach is already much greater than that of television and print. And so people have always tended to say, digital is okay for a niche brand, for a mass brand, and need TV. But actually it's not true. If I look at the fact that, every single day in India, more people are reached on their mobile phone with ads than ever watch any television channel or all television channels put together. There are already 600 odd million people receiving ads and only 400 odd million people who can watch TV in India. Right? You're already 50% bigger than television in terms of reach if you count mobile and SMS as a legitimate medium. Right? But not all digital is growing equally. So this is not a point to come and say, let's just go buy lots of ads on Readerford, let's buy lots of ads on in.com or Yahoo or whatever it is. Look a little closer and see where the growth is. If I look at the last 18, 24 months of growth, so basically this is a regular portal. Readerford has grown at about 3% on an average. And we talked about 140% industry growth. Yahoo has grown at about 12% on an average, year over year, compounded. In.com has a CAGR of 2%. Right? India Times has a CAGR of 3%. So certainly, these are not the portals that are contributing to the 140% usage growth. They're all growing at 2% or 3%. The biggest was Yahoo, which grew 12%. So where has this huge and insane growth come from? If you look at the numbers again, so hence the answer is not more media buying in these places. Look at Blogger, something as unheralded as Blogger. CAGR of 65% in India. All of these numbers are India numbers. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. LinkedIn, up 440% year over year. Facebook, up 980% year over year. And Twitter, up 1,900% year over year. So essentially, what one is saying is you can almost ascribe all of this growth in this medium that we've talked about to social sites and social media. So we're really not talking about just a digital explosion, but digital is growing at the 2-3% or 4% or 5% or 12%, but basically social is what has really powered this enormous change. So the big development is the spread, the size of, and the ubiquity of social networks. So given that, what is your brand plan in response? Because the way your brand behaves in social networks is likely to be extremely and entirely different from the way it's ever behaved anywhere else. Let's look at this a little closer. If I take the top sites in India, and this is from AdPlanner, the two sites which are not here, you all know will be google.com and google.co.in because Google doesn't report its own numbers. So imagine that those two are on top of this. The interesting thing you'll see is that number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7 sites in India are all social, as are 3 or 4 more sites in the top 15 or top 20. So, apart from Google, the search engine, and Yahoo, the portal, social sites are bigger than everybody else in India already, and they're growing larger. And already they're neck and neck with Yahoo. Facebook is at 25 million, and Yahoo is at 26 million. Give it a couple of months, you'll see that data probably change again. Right? So what you're seeing out here, these sites include Orkut.co.in, Orkut.com, YouTube, Blogspot, and so on and so forth. All of these are social sites. But put the numbers aside for a second, and we've talked about numbers, and I did want to give numbers because I think it's important to credibly establish this claim that you're here and you're here to stay. What's actually even more interesting is the qualitative aspect of the medium. So if you look at it out there, what is the consumer trust in media? You've probably seen this Nielsen study, but I'll repeat it. This happened last year. In terms of asking people what medium do you trust editorially, where do you believe this, where do you believe the news, what medium do you trust? And the really interesting thing is the top 3 media are websites, consumer opinions posted online, and recommendations from friends. They're all word of mouth or social media. The top 3 media are kind of word of mouth / social media or digital media. And then comes editorial and brand, and then comes television, newspapers, print, which is a far cry. So essentially, what your audience is saying is I consume a lot more social media than I watch TV, and I also trust it a lot more than I trust TV. Of course, Nielsen wasn't aware of what would probably happen in India. But today, certainly, you know that readers don't trust their editorial. I mean, so whether it's a Nikhil Kazmi review, I mean, I read the review today of the new Kiran Rao movie, and I said, my God, I have to find a review that's not a Nikhil Kazmi review, right? Because generally that's a pay-for-performance review. How many stars do you want? And you know, and you know that yourself. When a movie comes out, you read the review, you say that's bullshit. You either pick up the phone, call your friend and say, how is it? Or you go on Facebook and say, my friends saying that they like it. Because that is far more credible than an official review given by somebody. That's the way you behave out here. Right? So when readers are trusting less and less of print and television editorial, even from people that we've been trained to respect in the past, what role, what trust does the advertising have in that medium? So it's not just an issue of numbers, it's an issue, like we said, of the basic credibility of the medium. If you do know that there is a point of view, there's a particular angle behind a particular, and there is not something out there called unbiased editorial, well, your advertising then loses the credibility because it's there in that particular medium. But what we're talking about is not really so much about spending the same amount of money, saying, okay, take it away from TV and put it in digital, even though we do believe that television brand budgets should now move to social, because social is the place you build brand, while search is probably the place you build, traffic and do a few more tactical things. It's really actually about spending less money, and we'll talk about that. So this is a list that some of you may have seen before of all the brands in India with a number of fans on Facebook. And there's several of them who are already in the 1 million plus mark. There's Vodafone, there's MTV, and a few others are there that are already in the 1 million plus mark. One of our clients is already up there at the 800,000 mark. This is Cafe Coffee Day. The interesting thing is, as opposed to what the other brands have done, no fans here have been bought by advertising. Today you can buy fans on Facebook, you go do some ads, and for typically 10 to 12 to 15 rupees a fan, you're buying fans. But this is not so much about buying fans. These are fans that have actually signed up voluntarily and organically. We don't really like the idea of buying fans. So it's not so much about buying fans. But the broad point one is trying to make is, somewhat counterintuitively, it probably will pay you more to invest in unpaid media than in paid media. And that's really a huge shift in thinking. Traditional brand management was always about, I'm going to take this money and deploy this money and get the result I want. And actually that's going to work in the contrary way to you in social media, where you have to actually build things up from the ground level. And you can't just go around paying to acquire friends and paying to acquire fans and paying to acquire engagement on that basis. Right? As a brand, you also need to move from advertising to editorial thinking. So you don't have to so much worry about, with the decline in credibility of traditional advertising, traditional media, where consumers really don't know if it's an ad, or especially with things like MediaNet. Is it an ad? Is it a headline? Is it paid? Is it unpaid? You know what? I don't trust this entire thing. All of it is an ad put together. Given that, you now have an opportunity to go back and build your own editorial. If the newspapers and media are vacating editorial, it's time for brands to go and take it over. And they're not likely to go back. I mean, there are very few media out there that have the ability to go to resist, the fact of being paid for a headline. So there is an opportunity to build unbiased editorial around your brand, or as biased as your brand, but transparently biased editorial around your brand. Like I said, it's not about advertising, but your own editorial. An example here, I just picked this picture from What's Up on Cafe Coffee Day. Somebody posted a picture of a little boy kissing a girl, and within half an hour this morning, 285 people liked it. The interesting thing is they're not posting it on their own page, but they're posting it on the page of a coffee shop that they like. Right? So that shows you that there is some amount of engagement within the community. It's not just about what the coffee shop is posting and what somebody else posts in return, but there's people out there who believe that they're truly making conversations across the table, metaphorically speaking, at the coffee shop. So it's really about creating your own editorial environment from the community. Right? The answer, again, is not to buy fans. Many people are out there buying fans. I mean, I've had people come and say, the guy says 10 rupees a fan, I'll give it to you for 8 rupees a fan. We think that's kind of ridiculous. It's like, I'm going to buy you friends and you're going to be, we'll give you 10 friends in the next 7 days. It doesn't really work that way. Okay? The more important metric than buying fans, because anybody can buy fans. In fact, some sites on Facebook are rather crazy. The only thing you can do is you have to first like it before you can access the site. That basically means that you're being conned into signing up to like the site before you even know what it is. And those are not what we think are genuine measures of engagement. So we've actually built a couple of measures of engagement. We call them E1, E2, and E3. And these are basically engagement per lakh or engagement per 100,000 fans that we talk about. So when we look at large brands and we measure the engagement, we say the first measure of engagement is what we call unprompted engagement, which is how many people, like that guy who posted that video of the boy or the girl, are actually actively communicating on your site with no stimulus from you, with no prompts from you. How many people are actively communicating in your community with no prompts from you? And that's what we call unprompted engagement. The second level is what we call prompted engagement. How many people, when prompted by you, engage with you? So you write a comment and they like it, and they comment back on it. And the third thing is what we call passive engagement. How many people, when prompted by you, just say, yeah, I like what they say. When we look at these ratios, these are three very good ratios that tell you how healthy your community is and what you need to do to build it up or change it. So I'll take you through some numbers out here. I don't know if these are visible, but I'll read them out to you. So if I look at three brands out there which are rather large, and we took Zuzu's and Flipkart and Cafe Coffee Day, and I'll try to move the even levels out here, you can see for Flipkart at 32 out of 100,000. For Cafe Coffee Day at 330 out of 100,000. And for Zuzu's at 35 out of 100,000. So essentially, you're looking at a level of engagement out there where one brand is 10 times the engagement of the other, with fans in roughly the same kind of order of magnitude. When you look at E2, which is what we call the prompted engagement levels, Flipkart is at 320 on 100,000, CCD is on 2,000 on 100,000, and Zuzu's is on 800 on 100,000. Again, you're seeing one brand is 5 to 7 times bigger than the other in terms of prompted engagement. And the third measure is passive engagement. Again, 2,000 on 100,000, 8,000 on 100,000, and 2,000 on 100,000. Again, you're seeing that essentially the quality of your community can be judged by, reasonable metrics. In the last month, for every 100,000 fans, how many of them give an unprompted message, how many of them give a prompted message, how many of them give a passive message. And these are things that give you the health of the community that you have out there. It's not enough to just buy fans. And you can very clearly see when fans have been bought, these numbers go down. If you only have engagement where 5 out of 100,000 are engaging, there's something deeply wrong. Because the other 95,000 people, I have no idea what they're doing. Or they probably came and signed up without really caring about who you are, or why they got shanghaied into being a fan of your page. This actually changes brand management inside out. And the question here is, can you really keep pace? We all grew up with this man and his 4 Ps. Right? But essentially, I think, if you remember, Amit Kotler's first book was written in 1959. Based on the research she did between 1945 and 1955, primarily around industrial America. Guys, we're in 2011 right now. Right? I think we've kind of gone past the industrial revolution, that post-revolution phase here in the age of information technology. Let the man retire. I mean, he's fine. Let him pass on. I don't think really those 4 Ps are what we can stick to, in any sensible way. It's nice. I mean, this is the age of Einsteinian mechanics when you all learned about Newtonian mechanics. So let's just let it pass on. So given that, we have these new rules which really don't follow the 4 Ps in any sensible way, are there any new systems that have come up? So we'll talk about something that we think might be a replacement, or might be at least a process replacement to how these 4 Ps happen. There is a new world out there, and this is really, and before we come into this new process, I think one of the interesting things is there is a new world out there where perceptions of brands and perceptions by consumers are changing much more rapidly than they ever used to. And we'll talk about this. Right? To the less initiated, I mean, basically, I wanted to differentiate between the product and the brand. The product is really made of raw materials. I want to make something really interesting and cool. I pick the best cotton. I find the best quality cotton. I find the best quality rubber. I really use a lot of technology, put it together and put it together with the best quality of plastics and polymers. And I really want to create a product of cotton, plastic, and rubber. At the other end, what a consumer is interested in is he's interested in a product or an offering that connotes speed. He's interested in an offering that connotes determination, that connotes dedication. He's interested in an offering that connotes fair play, equality, and no mistreatment of anybody involved. And essentially what you guys are doing, you're both talking about the same thing. From a product manager's point of view, you may have built up a Nike shoe, but from the consumer's point of view, you have an offering that is about determination, dedication, speed, fair play, and equality. Now, essentially, this is really the difference between kind of more industrial thinking and post-industrial thinking, because products are made of atoms, brands exist in neurons, and the issue is that people buy brands and people don't buy products. And this is amply clear with everything we do. So it really, the quality of the plastic matters much less than the quality of the interaction in the event and what people and your engagement with people who think about your brand. So you may put a lot into your product. You may put the best coffee. You may put the best fair trade policies. You may pay your baristas a lot of money. and say that I've got a great coffee brand, but if you don't take care of it, everything from your signage, or you allow people to start interestingly named alternative groups, right? Or you allow a huge amount of negative publicity, this is the Starbucks sucks meme out there to exist, your brand actually pretty much fails. So essentially it's not about just ensuring the best quality of inputs, but it's about ensuring the best quality of continual consumer perception management. If you're on a scale of 0 to 10, the first thing you want to do, and if you want to move up the scale to a 10, the first thing you want to do is move from -5 to 0. And moving from -5 to 0 is all about handling consumer issues, customer complaints. So we actually see this is a place which is pretty critical where customer service really becomes a very important part of brand management. And we'll talk about this later because many organizations have challenges saying that's the customer service department and that's the brand management department. From a consumer's point of view, it's like, let's say you're out there saying, buy my new phone service, let's say on Vodafone or Airtel or whatever it is. And there's somebody else saying, but this phone isn't working or you've overcharged me. You can't say, okay, that's okay, doesn't matter, I've overcharged you, but buy my service. You've got to say, I will deal with your issue. You've got to have a happy customer, have him come back and say, I've been happy, till somebody else sees the transaction, says, these guys took care of the customers, then you move from -5 to 0, and then you have a chance to move from 0 to 5. Customer service is actually the first step now in brand management. So from this thing you now come to reacting. That's the first thing that you need to do. Again, there's consoles that do this, and reacting is a pretty large thing, especially when you run reaction campaigns or reacting campaigns for large financial services companies. You've got to keep track of every mention because by US laws and Indian laws and so on, you've got to keep track of every mention for a certain period of time, a certain number of years. And there's a large workflow involved. So, there was a mention that you picked up, there's a reaction that you recommend, it has to go through 3 layers of approval, come back, deploy, put the proof of deployment. So again, there's a significant need for technology that the traditional advertising business probably hasn't yet come up with because you need a workflow to manage this entire responding. It's not just about tracking. Many people say, I'm tracking, that's fine. It's not fine to track. It's like saying, I'm just doing research, but I'm not acting on it. That means nothing. You really must respond because that's the only thing that you can do to, take your brand up the positive scale. And these are examples of, responses out there. The third step, after tracking and after reacting, the third step is actually interestingly planning and analysis. This is where we come in and say, okay, fine. Based on what you've done and what the response was, what is your analysis of what's happening? And again, there's examples here that will tell you, either in numerical form what's happening, what are the trending issues that are out there at any point in time. So a brand manager says, okay, what are people talking about at this point in time? Again, there's enormous informatics out here. Here's an example of what we do for a large mobile phone company. On a live basis, we tell them, okay, for every particular offering that you have, how are the complaints trending? So in this case, you know that VAS auto subscription was an issue 2 weeks ago. It's become less than an issue this week. Termination despite submitting ID proof is going up. So these are all issues that are out there that are really important for the brand manager to know that this is what people are perceiving you at. So this is, for example, a tracking meter for mobile services, for broadband services, and also for DTH services. So on a live basis, you're able to sit back and say, what are consumers' issues about you? What are consumer perceptions about you? The last step, after you've done your tracking, your responding, your analysis, now you do your outbound deployment. Now you do your outbound communication. This is when you do your proaction. Many people say, I'm just going to do a Facebook page. You want to do your deployment and proaction only after you manage the negatives. You don't want to say, I'll just do the positives and forget the negatives. This is where you said you manage Facebook pages, you manage hundreds and thousands of fans, you do all of that positive buzz that we talked about. So this is really the entire process, and you really get into managing conversations, communications, and building the positives out here. Right? And the more important thing is, all of this it's like a wash, rinse, repeat. This is an unending cycle. The process doesn't end, it doesn't pause. It will really change the way we work, because based on this, again, you're tracking all the time. In some cases, remember, you're tracking 3, 4, 5,000 mentions. For a couple of clients, we average about 5,000 mentions a day, more than 150,000 mentions a month. And so hence, it's really an endless process. It changes the way we work. In fact, we need a new set of habits, right? Our work styles will change. Some brand customers we discovered, a year ago, are far more active on weekends. You can imagine a coffee shop's customers will tend to tweet on Friday evenings, Saturdays, and Sundays. So if you as the agency or you as a client have said, okay, fine, Friday evening, 6 o'clock, I've locked up, it's time for me to go home, and then you pick up the tweets and you respond to them on Monday or Tuesday, no consumer is going to be happy with you. So we figured this was rapidly happening. I mean, consumer usage of digital media doesn't sync with our office-going habits. So essentially we had to figure out that, do we stop talking to customers on weekends because we don't work weekends? That's a silly thing to do. So actually we think we're probably the first advertising firm in the world where a creative department started working shifts. So we now are able to give our clients not 24/7, we give them 12/7. So we're able to do work across, so we have a shift of writers and social media guys who work on Saturday and Sunday. And it really helps with brands which are really core on weekends, as well as, it cuts the load for, otherwise you do stuff from Monday to Friday and you get jacked on Monday again because you have all of Friday, Saturday and Sunday to take care of on Monday. So essentially this is another sign of the fact that we're moving to this 24/7 world. We certainly are in 12/7 ourselves as an agency. We believe clients will move here and other agencies also move here too. Right? Again, coming down to a key point, the biggest change is not in how agencies work, but it is in how marketers will need to reorganize. Yes, we are part of the services industry and we will need to change. But you as a client, how do you need to reorganize? Let's look at this process again. There's listening, there's planning, reacting, and there's proacting. What is reacting and planning? Reacting is kind of corporate communications, maybe customer service. Planning is brand marketing. And on the other side, look at what is proacting. That's product marketing, employer branding, if you want to do employer branding, brand marketing. All of these are different silos and different functions in an organization. Right? Listening is probably more customer service oriented. Now, these are probably different departments in a large company. But the fact is, if you want to have, a social media voice or a voice for your brand in social media that is a coherent, similar voice, you actually have to integrate all these departments. We do see a future where customer service, brand management, employer branding, part of HR, product marketing, all of these are pretty much looked after by one set of people that work much closer together. Again, I think this is a large change. The Industrial Revolution caused us to create these silos. We need to probably break these silos and jam these together again. And this is a very serious challenge because if you aren't able to manage this, just imagine the customer experience. You're out there saying, buy my product. The customer says, I have a problem with the product. You say, don't talk to me, that's another department. Right? We may laugh at it, but that is the reality out there with most companies. And a smart company will never do that. A smart company will say, yeah, I will take it on and pass it on. So what you will need is, even if you can't mash these departments together, you will probably need some nodal body where everything comes in and that body within the organization is able to, pass the right things to customer service, the right things to brand marketing, the right things to Copcom, the right things to product marketing and such, or HR and such. All of this probably needs to have one nodal person within the organization, not just within the agency, but within the marketer for this to happen. How will you and your brand reorganize? About a couple of years ago, there was a lot of talk that India is a great place to do all of this social media management because, we have this great BPO culture. Even, today we get a lot of calls from people saying, Pinstone might outsource a BPO work to us. We can set up a 100 people center in, rural Rajasthan where we have, people work, so on and so forth. We really believe that because it's the voice of your brand, it's very difficult for this to be a BPO initiative. Let me elucidate. When you call a call center, the person goes through a script. The person is trained in that script. So, hello sir, what's your name? Hello ma'am, what's your name? What's your account number? Blah, 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 blah. And that transaction happens. And you're okay with it. I mean, you may be, you're probably not deliriously happy, but you may be moderately satisfied with that particular call center transaction at best. Now, imagine that transaction happening in public, where that entire script is available, and the next person sees the same script, and the next person sees the same script, and the next person sees the same script, and all brands talk exactly the same way. So you're going to sit back and say, that's not my touch of the brand. I expect this brand to react differently and the other brand to react differently. Right? So for a really critical reason, I mean, it's really about different strokes for different folks. Just like you cannot do the same advertising campaign for 3 different brands, you cannot do the same social media management practice for 3 different brands. Each social media practice for that brand has to touch, feel, sound, smell, and taste like that brand. For example, if you see how ICICI Bank talks, or how Cafe Coffee Day talks, or how Airtel talks, it might be the same team behind it. But these are teams of copywriters and not BPO people. We tried the BPO route, it didn't work at all. We had to then figure out that it's actually, you need somebody else who thinks brand. So in effect, copywriters and social media writers are probably the call center operators of the new generation. And I don't mean that in a derisive way at all. Right? There's some learnings out here. The results actually can go far beyond what traditional communication can deliver. And I'll just go through 2 very quick case studies so we can have some time for Q&A at the end of this. So one case study is about a company. This is a public limited company based out of North India. It's public on NSE and BSE. And basically there was rumors flying around a year and a half ago that this company was the next Satyam. There was rumors of funds mismanagement, a huge negative buzz. People wrote about this. There was a huge drop in share price that happened as a result. There was a large negative impact on the investor community. And there was a huge market cap fall. So, specifically if I look through this, actually the lines are there. So it actually shows you the fact that the stock price was going up. There was some disinformation that happened around here. The stock price fell and there was about a $500 million loss in market cap in this particular company. Around here is where we were called in. There was nothing that was done on print, there was nothing that was done on TV. There was an enormous amount of work that happened in terms of what do we need to do to fix perceptions out here. We were called in at this point. Our work included, rewriting the site, a huge amount of Q&As, managing the online forums, managing the investor forums, a global search campaign, YouTube, MetaCafe videos, entirely new channels on these places. And it had to be done literally overnight. We had to pretty much work through the weekend. And we are reasonably certain, because this company did nothing else in any other medium, we are at least partly responsible for a $1 billion increase in market cap for this company, which has happened since. So this is a word and a medium. I mean, if I sit back and say that I increase your market cap by $1 billion in advertising, you'd probably get a Khan Award for this. But this is a small, unknown case that not too many people know about. This happened out here about 18, 20 months ago. And it's just as real as anything else out there. And this happened with no, no big creative. It just happened with pretty much exactly the same principles. Listen, react, plan, proact. Listen, react, plan, proact. That's exactly what was done out here. And what can be a better proxy for the value of your brand and the market cap of your brand? So here's a clear case of where, I believe digital media management not just saved the company, but increased its market cap by help increase its market cap by about $1 billion in a 6-month period of time last year. There's another example. So this is a television campaign you've seen for one particular cell phone provider, which talked about the fact that, a developer comes and to a minister and says, can I build a mall in the middle of the villages? And the minister says, let me ask people what they think. And apparently a poll is taken on SMS or voice and people say no. And that's basically what the ad was about. So the point here was, if we're showing participative democracy, why talk of it, do it? So we set up a parallel movement out here to say, why don't you actually put your concept out here, get others to support it, vote on it, create a petition out of it. And this was done, promoted through, through search, output, Twitter, the works. Apps were done for iGoogle, so on and so forth. Particular concepts which started getting traction, automatically became banner ads, banners, blogs. Just focus on the results for a bit. Of the two large campaigns that happened in India last year, the campaign that everybody knows, which was a mass social outreach campaign in India last year, which was called Jagore. Jagore had more than $4-5 million behind it of weightage. This campaign had 4% of that budget. But the only campaign in India that crossed Jagore last year was this campaign for India. And it did that on 4% of the budget within a 1-month period. Okay? So you have very, very clear, measurable metrics out here saying this is a general brand awareness campaign, but you're still able to see that you're able to generate an enormous amount of virality. If you think in an integrated fashion, and you don't just think about saying, let's do it the old way. It's just not about people. It takes technology, and we'll probably spend a little more time talking about this in the Q&A. I won't spend too much time other than to say that we as a firm have had to put in about 160,000 man-hours of tech development. We have today about 10 terabytes of data stored on our own boxes. And for several clients, they're now mentioning, brand mentioned databases of 1 million incidents each. And all of this has to be accessible in real time. So this is not Mickey Mouse stuff. This is stuff that you actually, there are not commercial solutions out there that are able to scale, to cope up with what you do. It's, again, not just about people and technology. It's about a new era of what we call performance-driven marketing. We do all know of the huge spate of kickbacks that happens out there in the traditional media buying world. 8-10% of 30,000 crore business essentially goes back somewhere as part of the buying, unfair buying process. The pressure on media and creative agencies will increase, and you've seen this happen out there. And as YouTube grows out there, today the agency business makes most of its money from television commercial production, where margins are 50, 60, 70, 80% of essentially. Things that cost 20 lakhs are charged, a crore of rupees for. What's really going to happen when we move to a YouTube world? You will, I believe, see a flight of talent because suddenly agencies will not have the money because they are not making that money by marking up television production costs so high. And YouTube will make the change happen in the next year or two. I mean, video will be the next major change that that makes a difference in the traditional advertising world. I do want to end on my 24th point, and I hope for you guys, because it's been generally been a reasonable ride so far, that the path isn't charted yet. We don't know, the world is forming out there around us. We just had some early indications. So find yourself, a partner who can co-explore with you. Have this process of co-exploration, because it's not set out there. Try a few things out, and there's enough out there in terms of best practices that you can learn from and go forward with.